Why hello there, dear viewer. In today's video, we are going to go over Lindsay's origin and her journey into radical fourth wave feminism, or what is more appropriately called radical neo-Marxist feminism. Where did she come from? Where did she go? What the hell happened to this cottonmouth hoe? I'm going to begin this journey down the rabbit hole from the very beginning, back to the day all this madness started. Lindsay was born in the state of Tennessee, in what I believe is one of the most appropriate years for a person like her to be born, 1984. She practically stepped right out of the novel 1984 with how she thinks up is down, left is right, freedom is slavery, and somehow women choosing to work less means they are being oppressed. Naturally, she wasn't born into this mindset. All of this was conditioned upon her in her later years, by what I can only assume is media that she consumed as a little girl, mostly consisting of stuff that would consider her as a tomboy, such as Transformers. Mix this with an area that is Republican, and have it be in a place she despises due to how boring it is, with an unfortunate case of her suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, and we have ourselves the perfect recipe for a Disney princess mentality. And remember, she got her start to fame online as a Disney Princess reviewer. The Disney Princess was a warning, Lindsay, not a guide. So was 1984. As you can see, Lindsay starts her hypocritical lifestyle very early on. Her teenage years were not much to shake a dildo at, because if anything traumatic happened there, we'd have heard it from it non-stop. And sadly, we have heard nothing about it. It seems her life was very peaceful for the most part, with absolutely nothing happening in it. I'm actually rather surprised someone like her lived in Tennessee and didn't spend her time chucking firecrackers at squirrels in the backyard. And I'm even more surprised she has all her fingers. However, her gripe with her pampered yet still redneck upbringing sent her far away as possible from it. And between 2003 to 2007, she went to New York University to get her BA in Film Studies, which it seems she's slept her way through, possibly in more ways than one, with how loose her canon was, if you catch my drift. Where did this expensive and totally useless degree land her at? Well, after writing a Cthulhu romance book called Awoken, this was before the woke movement was a thing, with her college roommates while she was getting her MFA in California for Cinematic Arts, Lindsay was picked as a diversity hire for Channel Awesome in 2008. This means Lindsay was tossing between binge drinking, college classes, and weekly reviews for about 3 years, which apparently caused her to develop anxiety to this kind of thing, and clam up when it came to delivering the goods. During one of those clam up moments, Lindsay accidentally released a video called The Rape Rap on Channel Awesome's website, which confused a lot of people and angered others. Her excuse was that she had it in a folder as if she was going to upload it to the site, but then somehow she forgot to remove it from the folder. This folder is a cloud folder that was specifically for uploading to the Channel Awesome website, so obviously it's the website's fault. I mean, why should we ever blame Lindsay for something she did? It's not her fault she spent time to film it, edit it, put credits at the end, link her Twitter in it that she apparently just started at the time by giving in. Look, none of this is her fault. The point is, she messed up, she tried to dust it under the rug, and then she blamed the patriarchy as to why she couldn't make any other videos during that time, like literally anything else that's not a rap about rape. My favorite part about that little scandal was how much the Channel Awesome content creators tried to white knight for her. I haven't seen this many fake tears since Drew Wario tried to brush the back of his tongue with buckshot. 2010 is when she made a short college documentary about her own abortion and called it The A Word, because the title Baby Killer Revenge of the Rusty Coat Hanger was already taken. In this documentary, she expresses her views about sexuality and how it's easy to judge, but not easy to be in that kind of position. My issue with this 7-minute not so much of a documentary is that she never makes an argument for either side that is actually valid. She just makes excuses for both sides to pretend she's showing some lack of bias. This is where her ability to obfuscate sort of starts. Her knack of putting so many words in a video and not saying anything at all. She did get better at pretending she's trying to show two sides of the argument later on in her video essays, but I am very sure this is the work of her friend Elisa and not Lindsay being nuanced. In 2014, she left Channel Awesome to become her own girl boss, and this is where she started to use her connections to join things like PBS Digital. And this is also where she started to use Twitter to make fun of white genocide. In 2015, Lindsay started to tweet sarcastically about white genocide, making fun of the idea that white people are dying out and how they are a global minority. Apparently, according to Lindsay, it's fine to make fun of minorities having lowered birth rates and higher death rates as long as it's white people dying off. But what exactly causes a white woman of all things to enjoy the thought of her own race dying off and also making a film about how she killed her own child? That, dear viewer, is exactly what we are going to examine today. Feminism is a widely known political ideology these days, but it wasn't always like that, and even now, most people don't understand what it really means. And when I say most people, I mean most feminists, since there are so many different kinds of feminists and they battle each other to the death on a daily basis. I truly believe feminists hate other forms of feminism outside of their sect, much more than they hate men or even MGTOW. The reason I say that is because you can't really get a hold on people and have people follow your message if other people are obfuscating your message, and these would be the other feminists. Feminism can be defined as a political movement which tries to rectify sexual inequalities between the female and the non-female. The more equal, the better. There are four main types of feminism: liberal, relating to first and second wave; Marxist, relating to second and third wave; radical, relating to first, second, and third wave; and then postmodernist, relating to third and fourth wave. These waves of feminism are simply different points in the timeline that allow us to take note on the main focus of such a wave. First wave was about women's rights to vote and started around the 1800s. Second wave was about women's sexual liberation, basically the one about no more slut-shaming, and this started around the 60s, which is why hippie women were such sexual deviants who didn't wear bras. Third wave was about how men and women are equal when it comes to cultural gender norms, and this was the riot girl era, when women started to shave their heads, and this started around the 80s. Fourth wave feminism is the one that people are still arguing over because we're still living in it, and it's sort of the one that says, a woman is whatever identifies as a woman. And there's also a sort of believe all women thing that's mixed in with the Me Too movement, with this one starting around 2014. So, when I say Lindsay is a fourth wave radical neo-Marxist feminist, I am saying she believes in the radical, Marxist, and postmodernist forms of feminism at the same time. This sounds weird and contradictory, but hear me out. Twitter is where the main feminist echo chamber lies, because Twitter is all about telling yourself you're a victim and telling others that they are oppressing you. Lindsay believes she is oppressed because she's a woman. She's believed this since she started going to college, big shock, and she's never stopped thinking she's been oppressed. Even after becoming a millionaire girl boss, she's still oppressed in her mind. Even if we remove the female part, she still considers herself to be bisexual, and so she is still oppressed as a queer minority. No matter how we want to define her, she is going to consider herself oppressed by her own choice, through what she chooses to identify herself as, and she believes she doesn't have to do anything to actually be the thing that she identifies as. If she had the body of a man, she can still claim she's a woman by saying she thinks she's a woman, meaning her form of feminism includes male to female trans people. It doesn't matter what biology says or any other type of science because the postmodernist feminist thinks that a woman is a social construct and nothing more. People like Lindsay will still keep her female form, will still marry a dude, and will still use pronouns like she, her. But the main thing to remember is that her form of feminism also includes males who use they, them pronouns, and the non-binary females who use they, them pronouns, because these are the marginalized groups who are included in the woman category, because woman is still in their identity in some way, whether it's mental, physical, or cultural. For example, if a female wanted to change their birth sex to non-binary, they would feel oppressed by the system for having to change it because they are being seen as a woman by the system. Ergo ad hoc expulpendo, we have a woman being oppressed. And it's a postmodernist feminist issue. The Marxist feminist believes that female labor is not paid properly under capitalism, and so a communist revolution is required to fix this inequality. Women birth the labor pool for free, and so they believe they deserve compensation, as well as payment for unpaid domestic labor such as taking care of their own kids or doing the housework as a housewife. Payment for a woman's labor is to be equal, even if it means the woman doesn't do the same amount of hours or labor, due to a demand for equity, or equal outcome. This is where the 77 cents to a male dollar thing comes from. On top of that, the rich women of society are also oppressors of the working class women, due to the fact that these rich women are of the bourgeoisie. This is why Lindsay hates J.K. Rowling for being a TERF, because J.K. Rowling does not believe in the postmodernist form of fourth wave feminism, and J.K. Rowling is part of the bourgeoisie, so she cannot be oppressed. Lindsay is not part of the bourgeoisie, however, because Lindsay is only a millionaire, while Rowling is a billionaire. It doesn't count, okay? Sure, these champagne socialists like Lindsay, Hassan, Vosh, ContraPoints, Philosophy Tube, Earl C., Bernie Sanders, the founders of BLM, Richard Wolff, Noam Chomsky, and pretty much any late-night TV host these days are all fine with saying, "Eat the rich!" while being rich because they're pointing to someone richer than them. But, of course, if they ever become more rich than the people they are pointing fingers at, it would be because socialism totally worked. Lindsay being a political advocate for reform is what makes her a radical feminist, because her entire platform is designed to say, the personal is the political, which is one of the main tenets of radical feminism. One woman being oppressed means all women are oppressed. Just how believing one woman means we have to believe all women. Because thinking a woman would lie about rape after their story makes no sense, and in a system where rape is taken seriously, is somehow oppressing them. The idea of all these men in charge of companies and media are also issues these radical feminists want to reform. Meaning they want more female CEOs, and by George, they want it forced upon these companies no matter who says otherwise. It doesn't matter if things like Star Wars comes out shitty, or if certain video sharing platforms start becoming more fascist. There's a woman in the captain's chair, and that's all that matters. This is why radical feminists pushed for Hillary Clinton to be president, because of the fact that she was a woman. Although I believe Lindsay wanted Bernie to win, but I don't remember, and her Twitter is gone during the production of this video. So to recap, her radical side wants a social reform, and wants to point out radical feminist issues in things like Disney movies. Things like a princess being girly bugged her, and made her feel like they are wrong, because she wasn't girly, according to herself. But she's a girl, therefore Disney isn't feminist enough. Her Marxist side believes rich women are oppressing her, and so is capitalism. People choosing to spend their money on J.K. Rowling and her media is a bad thing, because it's oppressing Lindsay and all working women. Therefore, girl bosses like J.K. Rowling aren't feminist enough. Her postmodernist side believes woman is a concept outside of biology and science, with it being about self-identification and self-declaration. The penis is female, as long as you label it as a dainty little femdong after tons of hormone therapy. Science and logic be damned. Therefore, feminist stunts like the pussy hat movement and female gender swaps in movies are not feminist enough. It's never enough with this bitch. Just how the Disney princess, just like when she's in an all-you-can-eat buffet, she always wants more. This is why her videos are nothing more than petty grievances about all the niche nonsense nobody cares about. She can use as big of words as she wants when she talks about Beauty and the Beast not being feminist enough, or Twilight not being feminist enough, or Transformers not being feminist enough. But none of this will make any sense of her take on feminist film theory, or feminist film theory in general. Well, this and critical feminist theory are the two main things Lindsay talks about on her channel as part of her feminist propaganda. Yes, it is propaganda because it's something political she's advocating for through art, and yes, it is feminist because it's about feminism being the be-all end-all answer to the female experience of suffering. I will explain feminist film theory first to set up the ground rules, and then I will move on to critical feminist theory after to show how both CFT and Lindsay's idea of CFT are both bullshit. Think of this as Penn and Teller's lost episode of bullshit, but Penn has a horrible voice now and Teller is sitting beside me, doing his thing. Feminist film theory is a criticism of films that don't follow or poorly follow desires of the particular sect of feminism that the critic speaks for. It was started by second wave feminism around the 70s as a way to say things like, "This movie doesn't have enough women in it," or "This movie shows women being too passive and docile," to express their concern about fictional women and their fictional struggles. That somehow correlates with real women and their fictional struggles. Basically, another way to put it is that feminist film theory has a feminist go to the movies. They make a checklist of all the things they want to have added in their personal way, and they beg companies to listen to them. This kind of film theory is less of a critique and more of a laundry list of demands from people who are just trying to weaponize culture for their own personal agenda. And they believe it's justified because patriarchy is a default according to them. In comes Lindsay's wonderful video about Transformers, and why there weren't any female robots from space.
But here's the thing. There haven't always been female robots in Transformers, but there have nearly always been female robots in Transformers. When people think of women in Transformers, the first thing that usually comes to mind is male gaziness in Megan Fox. Feminine coding in these movies means you're either utterly impotent, like RC, a horrifying abomination, like Alice, or a duplicitous controller of minds, like Quintessa.
Mulvey's essay is also where the term male gaze comes from, and we'll get back to that later.
You hear that term she's constantly saying? Male gaze? This term completely contradicts postmodernist feminism and even radical feminism due to the fact that a woman looking attractive is not simply for the male gaze. I'm sorry to tell you this, Lindsay, but, lesbians exist.
Don't you like that word? Lesbian. Where you going?
Some women are sexually attracted to a woman like Megan Fox. Even if there weren't any goofy lesbians living on Earth, the movie is specifically directed towards men and is written by men. It's a Spike TV bona fide man's flick. Just how chick flicks exist and don't appeal to masculine men, there are movies for men that don't appeal to feminine women. Lindsay is trying to say a movie directed towards men is bad because patriarchy, and this is the crux of the issue with all feminism and especially postmodernist feminism. We're supposed to believe men are in charge and it's not the other way around? Somehow, women have control of our reproduction abilities and they can kill us all off in a heartbeat by simply not having kids. But it's the men who are in control of everything because there's a 0.05 chance of being raped, where far too many men don't even care about their own lives, let alone future humans. Biology itself contradicts feminism in this manner. This is why feminists hate science, but they love statistics, because they can always mess with the numbers, but they can't mess with the facts or truth. All they can do at that point is obfuscate, and it doesn't take long to see through their little song and dance. But Lindsay wasn't just insulted by the inclusion of a sexy woman in a movie directed towards men. She was also insulted by the idea that there was a female robot removed from the first movie.
Originally, we did have a girl bot. In an earlier version of the film, RC was going to be one of the Core 5 Autobots. But late in the game, RC was replaced with Ironhide. According to co-writer Bob Orsi, I would have liked to see RC, but the idea of a female Transformer just needs its own explanation, and there just wasn't going to be enough time. It would have been like, oh, that's convenient. They're trying to appease women with a pink transformer. So rather than have that happen, let's just let it be a straight shot and speak for itself right now.
When it says they were going to need an explanation, they mean that female transformers are as alien to us as the male transformers. But, due to the default being masculine, when it comes to something androgynous, and physically threatening or physically unappealing, we don't question a giant robot having a deeper voice. However, we would question why a female robot is in the mix, if these are robots that are not shown to have robot babies, or humans that designed them to have familiarity. This video is a perfect example to show how she doesn't even understand her own take on critical feminist theory, because she keeps on mistaking masculine for male and ambiguous for male, when this conflicts entirely with postmodernist feminism. And let's not forget that she began by saying feminism is postmodernist.
Feminist theory derives from postmodernism in that early feminist theorists looked at societal ideas that were presented about the idea of gender roles and asked, but why?
She wants to throw esoteric terms around like semiotics, which is just a study of symbols, and Lacanian psychoanalysis, which is ironically a psychological system that contradicts everything Lindsay said in her video. And she does this to hide the fact that she has no idea what the subject even is. This is why her joke where she says something in an overly complicated way and then goes, "It's that easy," makes me laugh at her instead of with her. Of course it's that easy, Lindsay, because you got it entirely wrong. Either that or her form of radical neo-Marxist fourth wave feminism got it wrong. It's up in the air on that one. But what about critical feminist theory? What is that one all about, and how well does she understand that one? Well, the only real difference between critical feminist theory and feminist film theory is that the film one is about film and the critical one is about culture. Critical theory, in general, is a theory that we can use a specific lens to see how people are enslaved by something, and then seek to liberate them from their cultural chains. Some people say that critical theory is a mix of modernism and postmodernism, but I would rather say that some theorists try to declare some form of objectivity, while others declare everything as subjective. It's kind of the difference between being a physical slave with a physical chain around you, and being a mental slave who is having their impulsivity and lack of self-control used against them. Kind of like Lindsay and Burroughs. So, if you take this cultural enslavement and add feminism to it, we get a theory that declares culture is subjective, the female is subjective, the woman is subjective, and all of these are social constructs. The culture forces women to be women, the culture is constructed by the oppressors, and the oppressors are the patriarchy. It doesn't matter if a woman or a man is in charge or in power. It just matters if men get any benefit in the eyes of the feminist. If the male gaze is appealed to in the movie, that's considered oppression because the man is benefiting at the female's expense, even though the woman has been evolving for over thousands of years to be sexually appealing to the man, because that's how we reproduce. I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me out of a knee-jerk reaction, but I think this is all a result of women being too damn comfortable and too damn pampered. I really don't like the idea of them being given the right to vote in the first place, because this is the snowball it's turned into. They beg for the right to vote. Okay, fine. You're now allowed to join the democracy that voted in Hitler. Go ahead and have fun. Just don't break anything and... Oh, what do you know? It's fucking broken now. Do you want to know who broke it? I'll tell you who. It was the men. The men did it, trusting the woman not to break it. Like Adam trusting Eve with a mysterious apple that smells like a snake's breath, men keep fucking themselves in the ass by trusting too much. I don't expect a lot of people to agree with me on that, since even a lot of right-wingers are liberal feminists. But that is my position that I will stick to, and this doesn't mean that I think feminism is objectively wrong. It has its purpose. I think its purpose is to fill a trash can where it belongs, but I am always open to being told how I'm wrong or having my mind changed. Meanwhile, Lindsay never really has her mind changed. She just doubles down to be more wrong later, and doesn't try to look into what she's saying due to her thinking her degrees in film theory are enough to save her. It's pretty much the argument from authority fallacy, where someone believes something is true because it came from an authority figure, despite the fact that an authority figure can say whatever the fuck they want. I am not an authority, and I am not a radical who wishes to remove women's voting rights, so I hope nobody treats me like I am either. Lindsay's version of feminism contradicts her down to her very lifestyle. It's amazing a woman can own a company and say she's not a business owner, aka a bourgeoisie, all because she can easily shift it to be where it's only male bourgeoisie who are evil. Then when you ask, what is a male? She goes, I don't know, I'm a postmodernist feminist now. Then when she wants to tweet about anything she can virtue signal for on Twitter, she declares herself as a radical feminist everyone in the media can get behind, because that's pretty much mainstream media these days. It's radical feminist nonsense that isn't able to please Lindsay because it's not feminist enough. Meanwhile, even a feminist being allowed to vote is too feminist for my taste, but women have the right to make chick flicks. I don't see any issue with women making media for women by women. I watched Lifetime movies as a kid and I thought some were pretty neat, especially some about women being trapped in their own home by an abuser. But even though I like to analyze media a bit further than most people would, I still wouldn't dare to claim a movie designed for men by men is supposed to somehow please a radical neo-Marxist fourth-wave feminist. Especially when it's about robot aliens punching each other for 5 movies. It's like watching Fast and Furious and wondering why none of the bald buff dudes are wearing high heels. And I guess that's my entire point about critical feminist theory and feminist film theory from Lindsay. These are two things that allow her to complain about absolutely nothing while using big words to complain about them. And then if anyone wants to say she's wrong, she can shrug her shoulders and go, it's complicated. But it's not complicated. This isn't complicated. It's quite simple. Lindsay is not a feminist because she's full of shit. Lindsay is full of shit because she's a feminist. Ergo expo facto vini vini vici oldi oxen free? Feminism turned a possibly decent tomboy nerd girl into a toxic brat who tried to make money with an ideological scam while disguising them as movie reviews and media analysis. This one kinda tired me out with how much stuff I had to explain as not Lindsay, but I think it's worth looking into for people to realize that this is never actually personal. I don't believe Lindsay would have been in this way if she wasn't indoctrinated into the ideology and became possessed by it. In a way, I don't think this is her fault outside of her action of allowing this ideology to possess her. In the same way that we can't really blame someone when they let a vampire into their house after the vampire tricked them. This specific path she took drove her insane as she tried to apply this mentality to other critical theories. She got mixed up into the wrong crowd, and other self-made victims like her ended up canceling her on Twitter, with her tweet about Asian media and Raya the Last Dragon. Just like a Disney princess, the bitch wanted more, and she got so much more she had to leave the internet. But this is not the end of the tale. I believe that her Raya tweet and the attack from woke scolds is not what cancelled her. I believe there is a different reason she ended her own online career. An axiom's end, if you will. That's the title of the book that she wrote. And I'm either going to come out with a simple video about my conspiracy theory appropriately concerning her book, or I will come out with my analysis of the first chapter and how it utterly fails in drawing in the average reader. For anyone who's trying to be an author themselves, that will totally be up your alley, and I hope you join me for either one. Till next time.